Yeah, I mean, look, there's a number of things to say about this relationship. In terms of John, he I think it says a lot that he does not feel comfortable um, saying that this is my show and I would like to book who I book. I've got over 1 million subscribers and many members. I make you a lot of money. The least you can do is allow me this. I'm sorry that your Fifi's got hurt, but this is what it is. And it takes some guts to do that. And I think it says a lot that he doesn't feel like he can. And it sucks. It's not what I would do. The vanguard will be there. And then obviously the like banning of other shows. I've got a great relationship with John, or at least I thought I did, and I had a great relationship, with Dr. Richie.
Yeah, to drill more into that, when it comes to the damage report, obviously, I think you kind of realized that your time was mostly up at the Young Turks main show. You're kind of persona non grata in the Poly Market studio. But I do think a lot of people that are fans of the damage report really loved your presence on that show, and they were able to kind of delineate. They were like, whatever I think of Cenk and Anna, I can still, tolerate hearing Francesca on the damage report because it's its own thing. Cenk and Anna aren't there. John clearly has his own opinions.
Well, they don't even watch the main show. I'm just saying,
a lot
like
of people don't. Yeah,
they just
a
don't.
lot of people.
They're different audiences.
For sure. And were you hoping that like you could kind of maintain that relationship with the damage report and with John Iadarola, even though your relationship with Cenk and Anna had completely deteriorated? Or did you kind of know that this was happening? Like, were you kind of almost hoping in a sense that this would happen, like kind of daring Cenk to
no. I was not daring Cenk at all. I really love going on the damage report, but I knew that maybe I was on borrowed time. And it is because I kept kind of kicking the hornet's nest that I think I knew that time was even slimmer and slimmer and slimmer. And it is a weird position. I thought about, well, what if I go on the damage report for free? Like I don't, ask for, to be compensated for my time. And, I, on a lot of these matters, I'll like talk to Matt, my husband, because he's, I think, just like more versed in the internet and just like what to do and shit. He's, and he was like, nah, that's dumb. Like, no, you should get compensated. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's work.
Exactly. It's work, get compensated. And it's true, there's other things I could be doing. And so, but I'm not going to lie and say it's not awkward to be like, okay, well, I'm taking money from y'all. But also, if you think about it, and I think we do need to think about our work in general, you're producing things for somebody else. You are making money for somebody else. John Iadarola is making so much money for TYT. And I have been on that show every single week for 4 years now. And look, ask the fans, man. They like me on there. I'm not trying to get all up in my own shit, but like they like me on there. And I like to think that I helped build up the damage report. Yeah, exactly. So
this is all under the damage report, and it goes on and on and on. And I'm not kidding, Francesca. There are probably 150 people that went on there to leave a comment about that. And it's a post on the YouTube channel. It's not even a video. It's just people want to have a place to voice their grievances that you are not going to be back on the damage report, because at that point you're almost like you are a fixture of the show, right? It's like if you're watching a show and a character that you like gets killed off, everybody's like, what the fuck? Like, I want that person to come back, except you're still alive. You're still perfectly healthy from what I can tell. You're still perfectly capable of doing the job. It's not disrupting the narrative. And yet, you're no longer obviously going to be back on the damage report.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's a number of things to say about this relationship. In terms of John, I think it says a lot that he does not feel comfortable saying that this is my show and I would like to book who I book. I've got over 1 million subscribers and many members. I make you a lot of money. The least you can do is allow me this. I'm sorry that your Fifi's got hurt, but this is what it is. And it takes some guts to do that. And I think it says a lot that he doesn't feel like he can. And it sucks. It's not what I would do. And so needless to say, there is a strain there. I also want to say that John's politics, John just has some of the best politics of anyone I've ever met. In terms of his intellect, in terms of understanding, sort of political nuances, strategy, but also in terms of having a very justice-centered analysis when it comes to women, people of color, queer people. John does it all. John is insanely talented, and he could, although I don't think he believes he could, very easily get a job somewhere else, if not go out on his own. His politics are light years better than Cenk and Anna's. They would hate to think that, but they are. John is maybe not as confrontational as they are, but there's only so much spitting at a camera will get you. So that is, I think that needs to be said. The other thing that needs to be said is during some of my disagreements with Cenk on air, and when I say some, I mean one, because Cenk, I was rarely on with Cenk, especially like in the last year or so. And I was never on with Anna. During the pandemic, I would do like Wednesday afternoons with her. That was less and less and less. And so when I was on, with Cenk and we were talking about Imani Khalif, obviously the boxer, Algerian boxer who won, was attacked for being a man.
That was when you came on our show's radar in a big way, because that was awesome.
Yeah, man. And I was prepped for that. I was like ready. I was like, I'm excited to talk about this. And, we sort of all kind of had it out. And I think it was either around then or before that, around that time, Cenk and I had a private conversation. And I was like, yo, you know what? Why don't we just have a debate on the main show? It would be so good. You and Anna can be there. John and I can be there. We can sort of like show the audience that you really do allow for debate, and everyone's coming at this from a different angle. And audience members are going to agree with you. They're going to agree with Anna. They're going to, and you'll show that you sort of like allow that on the platform. He's like, no, that's a good idea. Never happened. Right. And so actually, I think that transgender debate happened after I asked him if he would just have this debate with not even a debate, just discussion, friendly discussion on the main show. He never did. Again, this is a guy who will let Ben Glebe run his genocidal mouth for 40 minutes about how sometimes you got to bomb a hospital. Like, and that's fine. That's fine. But I can't, say my piece. So I think that's also, there is a paternalism with which they treat, Brianna Wu, let's not even get her started. There's a paternalism, I think, with which they treat John, and a paternalism with which they treat Dissent. And let's be real, they've got thin skin. That's just it. It's thin skin. I do want to get back to Gavin's question whenever, but I'm, happy to shut up.
Yeah, well, I'm interested in that, but I think you're totally right about that. It really just comes down to their pettiness, because I think Cenk specifically, he knows, like he goes on Piers Morgan all the time. He knows that there's a real appeal to having a real emotional debate, hashing out a disagreement live on air with someone, that's been a long time part of the TYT family. It really does blow my mind the way he's handled this whole situation, really by not leaning in to the controversy and disagreements and drama, but kind of just trying to punish anyone who steps out of line, even after saying, "Oh yeah, we welcome disagreement. We welcome."
Well, I think he's
debate.
Embarrassed. I mean,
yeah.
Just there are many issues here, so I don't want to get it twisted. The biggest issue is Cenk wants to have beers with Dr. Phil. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's number one.
Yeah.
He wants to make it about like trans athletes, that somehow that's my only issue. That's all I talk about, right? But I actually think he's embarrassed. Like, I think he is too embarrassed to have someone. I'm not trans. Like, get a trans person on, for the love of God. But like, right, exactly. And you're just like, and I'm sorry, but like, look at the creators who've left. Any trans creator, women of color, specifically people of color, Ben Dixon, Mondale Robinson. And then I'm not going to name names, but think through, who are the people who've slowly kind of not been around? Is that a woman? Is that a woman of color? Is that a black woman?
Also, regardless of their, ethnicity or race or whatever, the people that are consistently appearing on the Young Turks these days, like, they're really just teleprompter readers. Let's be honest. I don't even know their names. It's like these people that don't have a show, they don't have an independent following, they don't have an independent voice or really even an ideology. They're basically just there to read the teleprompter and support Cenk or Anna without ever pushing back. And that's the people that they've replaced you with. That's the people they've replaced, the other
I love and I
contributors.
support them, and I support them getting their, getting
For
compensated for
sure.
that
But
work.
it makes for a
But it's true.
really boring show. It makes for a really boring show when you just watch and there's no friction. And even back in the day, not that I think basically anything about him or his ideology is aged well at all, but I remember back in the day in 2015 when Cenk and Jimmy Dore would fight on the panel. They would have discussions about third parties or whatever, and they would get into it. Like they would actually argue. And it was literally my favorite part of the show at the time. That was when I first started tuning into TYT. Right. I actually really enjoyed that element where it was like, oh yeah, these people, it feels like a family. It feels like, everyone's on this mission together, but they're also able to turn around and yell at each other and say, you're fucking wrong. And you're, this is stupid. And like, they didn't hold back at all. And I really loved that. It was what brought me to the network in the first place and made me a fan, in addition to the progressive ideology. Obviously Jimmy Dore's completely gone off a deep end, but the point is, it's like now 10 years later, the energy is completely different. Not only can there not really be dissent or debate on air, but apparently not even behind the scenes. Apparently you're not even allowed to say things he disagrees with on Piers Morgan about trans people, which he randomly decided to play to poison the well against you to make you look like some crazy leftist, even though it's totally irrelevant to the supposed disrespect that you showed.
Irrelevant. I mean, it's just wild. It's like, how can you use me on Piers Morgan as evidence of how I hurt you? What are you even talking about? But yeah, I mean, let's just talk about Dore. It was very funny that he was like, oh, I defended you with Jimmy Dore, and now look, you're calling me names. Okay, let's just talk about it.
Yeah.
So 2018, height of like the Syrian civil war.
Dude, that's what made Jimmy Dore crazy, by the way, because he tried to come after us for that. We were like, I'm not an expert in that.
Both of you former fans? Both the Zach, you were a fan too?
When we first started making content, he really promoted our show, and then we committed the mortal sin of having Ryan Grimm on, and he starts sending us super chats in the audience telling us that like Ryan Grimm denies war crimes and Ryan Grimm's a crazy person, and then he gets everybody to like quit our Patreon, and we had like 20,000 subscribers.
You just told that story. That's wild.
We were like a fledgling channel, and we had kind of gotten connected to him through Kyle and Crystal and the Force the Vote movement. And we were like, let's hold everybody's feet to the fire. And then we found out, oh, this man is a mentally ill, crazy person. And that was when we
that was later. That was later. Force the Vote stuff. Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of thoughts on that. We might have been on opposite sides of that discussion.
We don't need to relitigate it.
We don't need to relitigate it. God, we're in such a different world now. Hey, we're all friends. No, but in terms of the serious stuff, okay, so like long story short, I have a friend named Shane Bauer. He's a journalist. He was one of the journalists kidnapped by Iran, who he was on the border, the Iraq-Iran border, whatever. He was held in an Iranian jail, got out. I've been in left media for a very, very long time, since 2004. He wrote some stories for a magazine I used to edit called Left Turn. Anyway, so Jimmy calls him like, oh, why are you an Al-Qaeda operative? Like, what? And so I was just like, I had a very cordial tweet. I'd like to see Jimmy do better. Jimmy and I had done like 1 or 2 shows on TYT together. I was still living in San Francisco. He freaks out on me. We all know that he was in Venice at the time, which is very funny. And it seems like he was voiced. He's like gelato's dripping, and he's like, "You're a pig, chill."
More like his 5th Negroni, probably.
Yeah, totally. No. And so he's like, on a gondola, and he's berating me on the DMs. And I messaged Cenk, and I was like, yo, what is going on? Get like a leash on your boy. Like, what's happening? And if my memory serves, like, he was like, okay, I'll talk to him. I waited. More shit from Jimmy, right? So clearly it didn't work. And I was like, fuck this. And I just went public with it. And I posted the DMs the absolutely unhinged DMs he was sending me, as like they were really abusive. They were far more abusive than saying you're acting like a bitch, not to his face, insanely abusive. And so then he had to do something about it. And by the way, Jimmy wasn't fired for things had been falling out between them, but it was not me. I might have helped push the snowball a little bit, but it had been a long time coming. You have to do, when you are a white man on the TYT network, you must do a lot to be fired from them, by them, right? Like, he had been running his mouth for a very, 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 very long time. So I just want to put that out there. It's very funny that he's then sort of like using that almost as if like he stood up for me. I'm like, cool, dog. Like, it's just, do you know he also sexually harassed Anna? Isn't Anna sitting off camera left just right now? Isn't she the one who produced this entire segment for you? We know that she did.
Look out the door if you hear an ambulance. The Vanguard will be there, sir. The Vanguard will be there, sir.